hello. I feel like you are here watching this for a reason, so thank you if you're here. And I hope you decide to stick around. So, I wanted to tell the story of how breaking my wrist saved my life. I broke my distal radius on my right dominant hand, and the fracture went through my carpal joint, so I had to get plate and screws surgery to fix it. I was riding my electric scooter home from the gym one day, and as always, I was in a rush and I was in a rage because, as usual, someone was driving very slow in front of me, and instead of using my logical brain and just riding down the street the other way, I decided to go up on the sidewalk, and it was an unfamiliar terrain, and I ended up losing control and deciding to bail out, and I fell, and I guess I landed on my wrist. I'm not really sure what happened because it happened so fast, and then I slid across the pavement for a few inches and got a bit of road rash on my elbow area. And this was the sign that I needed to finally seek help. I have been living with trauma for almost 30 years. In my mind, it was only 10 because an event happened back in 2015 that I thought was the cause of all my problems, but I've learned since then that it was actually my whole life and my childhood and teenage years as well. So I got the surgery on September 26th, and for the first couple weeks I was in a haze, taking the Percocet for the pain and really just depressed and uncertain about the future of my wrist, because my surgeon said there was, some complications with how bad it was, and because I had waited to get help because of my anxiety, I was hoping that it would just somehow heal itself, but then it got very painful, so I realized I had to go get it seen. But as the pain started to clear up and the tightness started loosening a bit, I realized that my mind was also loosening at the same time. And it made me realize how interconnected our mind and our bodies are. I think I always knew that, but I didn't really understand just how significantly they were intertwined. So as I started feeling better, I started seeking a therapist, and I emailed probably 20 different therapists, and there was this one who, when I saw her picture on the website, I just sort of immediately felt some sort of connection, and sure enough, she was the one therapist that actually answered my email exactly the way that I was looking for. I had a very specific requirement for a therapist, and she answered that question. So I've seen her a couple times now. Can't really afford more than once a month right now because my business isn't thriving as well as it should be because of the wrist, but I'm working on building that back up. So, after our first appointment, which was at the end of October, third week or so of October, I started looking into things myself, since the first appointment was just sort of like, get to know you, get to understand what I was looking for out of it. So she wasn't able to really give me much advice yet. It was basically like, start thinking about this thing or that thing, but it was very loose, and it was just up to me to figure it out on my own until our second session, which was a couple days ago. We are now at the end of November, and I just started with very scientific things that I knew have benefited people in the past, and that there's actual studies done on, this actually helps people to feel better. So I started doing breath work and body work and vagal stimulation exercises. I started going out on my balcony in the morning with a short sleeve shirt on and taking cold showers, and there's some birds. Okay. Alright. Okay. And I started trying to fix my gut health. I personally think that this was all set in motion because of the kombucha. I swear, as soon as I started drinking that all day, every day, everything just started taking off. Or it was potentially the 1111 portal. I don't know. It seems like a coincidence that everything started taking off on exactly November 11th. Very strange. I think a lot of people also went through the portal with me. So I needed all of that, very simple, scientific, grounding, mindfulness, self-compassion kind of things to get to a point where I just felt okay in my daily life, and to calm my nervous system down a bit, because I just couldn't even think. I didn't know who I was anymore, or I guess I learned that I never really knew who I was at all. And then about a week or so into doing all of that stuff, then I realized that it wasn't just my mind in my body, but my soul was also involved. And from that point on, everything just skyrocketed exponentially. Once I realized that, and I started learning how to meditate, and I started stargazing, at least on the nights that I was able to, when it wasn't super cloudy, which is good, gives me a little time to sit with each one and not try to overdo it, because if it was up to me, I would be out here every single night looking up at them. But it's also super cold, so it's nice to get a little break in between. But so I started meditating, and my friend introduced me to ambient meditation music, and then I realized okay, I don't have to go outside and suffer in the cold to meditate. I can just do it whenever I want, just laying in bed or walking to the gym or at the gym or at any point. And music has always been a passion of mine, so it makes sense that it would resonate with me so strongly. And allow me to enter a place of such peace. So, in this short 2-week or so span, I've learned so many new things about myself, and I've unlearned so many incorrect things that I had thought about myself, like that I was an introvert and socially anxious and depressed and undeserving of love, and so much more that I can't even really dive into, or else this would be like a 3-hour long video, and I don't want to take up either of our time with all that. And just the calm that has come over me, and not being reactive anymore to other people's behavior when they do things that I perceive as crappy or inconsiderate. I took so much of it personally, and it felt like it was just happening to me, like I was living some sort of real-life Truman Show. And I realized that there are actually more good people than bad, and that I was just surrounding myself with crap. And I had to just focus on the positivity and the goodness of people, and not put any energy into the hurt people who are suffering through the same thing that I was suffering with. Because I realized that, calling them out on their poor behavior just lowered my energy, and it, brought out their low energy as well. And obviously, what am I going to expect, giving bad energy to someone who already was doing something wrong in the first place? Obviously, they're not going to want to accept what I have to say, and it's just going to ruin my energy and my mood when I can just ignore it and, wish them the best, and that they will one day also see the light and stop treating people so terribly and doing such inconsiderate, terrible things. And if this is how I feel in just 2.5 weeks, then I can only imagine how I will feel in 2 months or 2 years. And I am so excited to go on this journey with all of you, and I will continue to check back in every few weeks to let you know how things are going. And I appreciate you being here, and please let me know. I'd like to know if you have experienced anything similar to this lately, or if you would like to. Let me know down in the comments, and I will see you next time. Thank you.